Have you ever heard of a disaster caused by molasses? It sounds almost like a joke, but on January 15, 1919, a bizarre and deadly tragedy struck the city of Boston. This is the story of the Great Molasses Flood, a day when a sweet, sticky substance turned into a destructive force of nature. To understand how this could even happen, we need to go back to the early 20th century. World War I was raging, and molasses wasn't just for baking. It was a key ingredient in producing industrial alcohol, which was then used to make munitions like dynamite and cordite. The Purity Distilling Company, a subsidiary of United States Industrial Alcohol, saw a massive business opportunity. They built a colossal steel tank in Boston's North End, a densely populated neighborhood filled with residential homes, warehouses, and the bustling waterfront. This tank was a giant, standing 50 feet tall and 90 feet in diameter, capable of holding over 2 million gallons of molasses. From the very beginning, however, the tank was a problem waiting to happen. Local residents reported hearing strange groaning and rumbling noises from the structure. It leaked so badly that children would often collect the sweet drippings in cans. The company, rushing to meet wartime demand, had cut corners. The steel was too thin, the rivets were poorly done, and safety tests were completely inadequate. They simply painted the tank brown to hide the leaks and hoped for the best. January 15, 1919 was an unusually warm day for a Boston winter. The temperature climbed from near freezing to over 40 degrees Fahrenheit. This sudden temperature change was the final straw for the overstressed tank. Inside, the cold molasses, freshly delivered from the Caribbean, began to warm and expand, creating immense pressure. Just after noon, without warning, the city was shattered by a sound like a machine gun barrage. It was the sound of rivets popping from the tank's steel plates. Eyewitnesses reported a deep, rumbling groan, and then the giant tank exploded. In an instant, 2.3 million gallons of thick, crude molasses, that's about 12,000 tons, burst forth in a terrifying rave. This wasn't a slow ooze. It was a tsunami of syrup, estimated to be up to 25 feet high at its peak, moving at a blistering 35 miles per hour. The wave was so powerful it ripped buildings from their foundations. The elevated railway track of the Boston Elevated Railway was hit with such force that a support girder buckled, nearly derailing a passing train. A firehouse was smashed, trapping firefighters inside. Horses from a nearby stable were swept away, unable to escape the sticky tide. The molasses wave crashed through streets, engulfing everything in its path: people, animals, wagons, and debris. The air was thick with the sickeningly sweet smell of molasses, mixed with the sounds of crunching metal, splintering wood, and the cries of those caught in the flood. The immediate aftermath was pure chaos. The North End was transformed into a sticky, brown wasteland. The molasses, which had moved so quickly, now began to cool and thicken in the winter air, creating a deadly trap. It was like quicksand. People were stuck up to their waists, struggling to breathe as the viscous goo filled their mouths and noses. Rescue efforts began almost immediately, but they were incredibly difficult. First responders, including police, firefighters, and over 100 cadets from the USS Nantucket training ship docked nearby, waded into the mess. They had to navigate a landscape where it was impossible to tell solid ground from a deep pool of molasses. They worked for hours, pulling survivors from the wreckage, their own bodies coated in the sticky residue. The search for victims went on for days. The final toll was heartbreaking. 21 people lost their lives, and over 150 were injured. The cleanup was a monumental task. It took weeks and over 80,000 man-hours. Crews used saltwater pumped from the harbor to wash the molasses into the drains and eventually back into the bay. For decades afterward, residents claimed that on hot summer days, the sweet smell of molasses still lingered in the streets of the North End. For years, the company tried to blame the disaster on anarchists, suggesting a bomb had destroyed the tank. But the victims and their families fought back, leading to one of the first and largest class action lawsuits in Massachusetts history. The court proceedings lasted for years, with hundreds of witnesses testifying. Ultimately, the court-appointed auditor found the company entirely at fault. The investigation revealed the shoddy construction, the lack of testing, and the complete disregard for public safety. This landmark case set a precedent for corporate responsibility and led to new engineering and construction standards across the country, requiring architects and engineers to show their work and affix their professional seal to plans. So what actually caused the tank to fail? Modern scientific analysis has confirmed what the victims argued all along. It was a catastrophic structural failure. Metallurgists studying fragments of the tank's steel found that it had very low manganese content, which made it brittle, especially in the cold. When the unseasonably warm day caused the contents to expand rapidly, the brittle steel simply couldn't handle the stress. It fractured, and the tank essentially unzipped from top to bottom. The Great Molasses Flood wasn't an act of sabotage or a random accident. It was the direct result of corporate greed and negligence. Today, the site of the former tank is a quiet park with a baseball field and a bocce court. A small, unassuming plaque is the only official reminder of the disaster that unfolded here. It reads, "On January 15, 1919, a molasses tank at 529 Commercial Street exploded under pressure, killing 21 people. Boston forgot for many years that this tragedy occurred." This plaque is dedicated to the memory of those who died. It is a story that serves as a powerful and strange reminder of how quickly an ordinary day can turn into an unimaginable tragedy, and how the pursuit of profit at the expense of safety can have devastating consequences. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I did, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into forgotten history. See you in the next one.